Good morning, students. Let's continue with the same chapter, An Angel in Disguise. We have to start from page number 82. I'm sure you all have your books with you. Now, please understand, students, it's a long story, but it's a beautiful story and it is important. So, make sure that you read it daily, right? We have it here. Let's continue. I hope you remember that Joe Thompson, when he took the little poor girl back to his home, his wife was actually waiting for him and she was filled with anger. She was not happy that he took that child back to their home, and she even insisted that he should see the guardians of the poorhouse that very day. She wanted him to take the child straight away to the poorhouse rather than keeping the child at their place. Now, this lady, she was filled with anger and ill temperament. So, that is the reason why she was not at all kind hearted woman. But Joe Thompson was a very kind hearted person and he already had that kind of a bond with Maggie that he had no intentions of sending the child to the poor house. But now he really wanted this thing to, the same feeling to actually take birth in her heart as well. This Jane Thompson, she was hard-hearted, and he really wanted her to feel that even she wants to keep Maggie, right? And that is what he is trying to do here. He's telling her that even in our holy book that we read, the holy book that teaches us so many things, even in it, it is written that people should love children. Even Jesus used to love children, and people or the disciples are the followers, and even the disciples who mistreated or ill-treated children were actually criticized by the Savior. Here the Savior is Jesus Christ. So he tells her that, if we take care of the child only for a night, she's a motherless poor child. If we do so, then of course we will be rewarded. Our actions will not go unrewarded. Right? So let's continue. I'm sure you all have your books with you. See, only by listening to me, you'll not learn. You need to keep your books open so that you know where I'm reading and you know what to mark. Right? So let's continue. It is page number 82. We've done the first para till a single night. So this is the place where Joe Thompson convinced his wife that we can at least keep Maggie for a single night. The voice of the strong, rough man shook and he turned his head away. So maybe, the way he was saying, he must have felt the sense, he must have felt that the words were so heavy that he got tears in his eyes, and he actually turned his face away, and even his voice trembled, you know. So that the moisture in his eyes, see the moisture in his eyes, we are talking about the tears in his eyes, might not be seen. Mrs. Thompson did not answer, but a soft feeling crept into her heart. Now, this is what he wanted. He wanted her to have a soft corner for this poor girl. And the same thing happened here. This soft feeling entered into her heart. Look at her kindly, Jane. Speak to her kindly, said Joe. Now, Joe really told her that, see, I want you to look at her with kindness, and I want you to speak to her in a kind voice. Think of a dead mother and the loneliness, the pain, the sorrow that she must be on all her coming life. He's so true. He's telling his wife that, see, just think about how, unfortunate this girl is. Right? Think about the pain and the sufferings that she will be feeling throughout her life. The loss of her mother and her, brother and sister. Apart from that, He says here the loneliness, the pain, and the sorrow will be there for her coming life. That means she'll be suffering with all this pain and sorrow throughout the life. The softness of his heart gave unwonted eloquence to his lips. So the softness that he had in his heart finally was expressed through his lips. Now finally he was able to express his pain for Maggie. Okay. Mrs. Thompson did not reply, but presently turned towards the little chamber where her husband has deposited Maggie. So she didn't say anything, of course, maybe, but then she went directly to the room where Maggie was lying. And pushing open the door, went quietly in. So she went quietly into the room. Joe did not follow. He saw that her state had changed. Joe, he did not follow his wife, and he very well knew that her state from vinegar, ill temperament has changed a little bit. That maybe she'll be kind towards Maggie. Joe did not, okay, and felt that it would be best to leave her alone with the child. So he thought it's best that I should leave them alone, that I should leave the child with her. So he went to his shop, which stood near the house, and worked until dusky. Evening released him from labor. So he went to the shop that was near the house and he worked till the evening, and till the evening time actually released him. So he got free at the evening time. A light shining through the little chamber windows was the first object that attracted Joe's attention on returning towards the house. Please understand, mark this. So when he was coming back towards his house, the first thing that he saw was the light coming out of Maggie's little chamber, right? It was a good omen, means it was a good sign. Omen means sign. So the moment he saw light coming out of Maggie's chamber or room, he understood that it was a good sign. That means somebody is there, or maybe she is awake, right? Okay, the path led him by this window, and when opposite, he could not help pausing to look in. So maybe the path was from, somewhere near the window, and when he was walking on the path, he tried to look into the room. He paused so that he could actually look into Maggie's room. It was now dark enough outside to screen him from observation. Now outside, of course, it was dark, it was evening, so it was easy for him to look inside the house. Maggie lay a little raised on the pillow, with the lamp shining full upon her face. So Maggie was lying on a pillow, and there was a lamp right next to her that was shining, and the light could actually fell on her face. Mrs. Thompson was sitting by the bed. So Mrs. Thompson was there. She was sitting by the bed, talking to the child. But her back was towards the window. Maybe the way she was sitting, so it was her back towards the window, because of which Joe Thompson was unable to read her expressions. So that her countenance means face or expressions, was not seen. So her face was not seen by him. He was unable to see her face. Why? Because of her back towards the window. From Maggie's face, therefore, Joe must read the character of their intercourse. So just by looking at Maggie's face, he tried to understand what is going on between them. What kind of a conversation is taking place. He saw that her eyes were intently fixed upon his wife. So what he saw, that she was actually looking at Jane Thompson with, you know, she was actually looking at her with something going on in her mind. That now and then a few words came, as if in answers from her lips. So maybe just a few words came out of Maggie's mouth, and she was, looking at Jane Thompson very carefully. But he saw nothing. Okay, and that her expression was sad and tender. And of course, that the expression of this poor girl was sad and tender. Tender means soft. But he saw nothing of bitterness or pain. But there was nothing as bitterness, hatred, or pain. A deep drawn breath was followed by one of relief. So finally he understood, okay, there's nothing wrong going on between them, no anger, no fights, and no sorrow or pain. So he took a breath of relief. As a weight lifted itself from his heart, he felt as if somebody lifted weight from his heart. On entering, Joe did not go immediately to the little chamber. So he must have entered the house. He didn't actually go to Maggie's room directly. His heavy tread, the way he walked, his heavy footsteps about the kitchen brought his wife somewhat hurriedly from the room where she had been with Maggie. So his wife must have heard, okay, that my husband is here. So she hurriedly came out of the room and met him. Joe thought it is best not to refer to the child. He is an intelligent man. He thought that it is not good to refer to the child right now, nor to manifest any concern in regard to her, and not to ask any concern or not to show any concern in regard to her. How soon will supper be ready? He asked. So he changed the whole topic and he questioned, how soon can I get the supper? Right soon, answered Mrs. Thompson. She said, oh, very soon, beginning to bustle about. There was no asperity in her voice. So there was nothing, no kind of hatred, frustration right now in her voice. So he could see that, okay, everything is okay, is calm. Then let's see. After washing from his hands and face the dust and soil of work, Joe left the kitchen. So he washed his hands and his face and took off the dust. Then he left the kitchen and went to the little bedroom and went to Maggie's bedroom. A pair of large bright eyes looked up at him from the snowy bed. So this little girl, it is they have actually explained how she was looking. She had a pair of large bright eyes. So they were looking at him from the snowy bed when he entered in, looked at him tenderly, gratefully, pleadingly. So please underline these three words. She was looking at him with tenderly, means softness, gratefully. She was grateful for saving her, pleadingly requesting him. How his heart swelled in his bosom. So the moment he looked at the poor child, his heart actually swelled, filled with love. With what a quicker motion came the heartbeats, and the way his heartbeats were, he could imagine how much he started or how much what kind of a bond was made between him and Maggie. Joe sat down and now, for the first time, examining the thin frame carefully. Thin frame means frame of a face. Carefully under the lamplight, saw that it was an attractive face. So this is the first time he actually examined Maggie. So she was an attractive child, full of childish sweetness. So she was a sweet child, which suffering had not been able to obliterate. So she had that childish, expressions on her face. Everything was still intact, and the pain and suffering, they were not able to take away her childishness. She was still a child. Your name is Maggie, he said, as he sat down and took her soft little hand in his. So what he did, he sat down, he took her little hand and he said, "So your name is Maggie?" "Yes, sir." Her voice struck a chord that quivered in a low strain of music. So her voice must be, good, very good. So he says here she says here, "Yes, sir." "Have you been sick long?" "Yes, sir." What a sweet patience was in her tone. The way she was speaking was actually good, "Has the doctor been to see you?" So he's asking her, like, uh, has the doctor ever visited you? "He used to come, but not lately." So she says, "Yes, he used to come, but not now." Okay, I'm sorry, the second line, "but not lately," is said by Joe Thompson. So she says, "No, sir." "Have you any pain?" So she says, "Sometimes, but not now." "When had you pain?" "This morning my side ached and my back hurt when you carried me." "It hurts you to be lifted or moved about." "Yes, sir." "Your side doesn't ache now?" "No, sir." "Does it ache a great deal?" "Yes, sir, but it hasn't ached any since I've been on this soft bed." So she was very grateful, sweet and loving child. She was happy. She was happy that she was on this soft bed, and since at the time she got this bed, she is not at all feeling the pain. "Oh, yes, yes, so good." What a satisfaction mingled with gratitude was in her voice. So, when she said the soft bed feels good, there was a kind of a satisfaction mixed with gratitude, thankfulness in her voice. "Supper is ready," said Mrs. Thompson, looking into the room a little while afterwards. So she must have prepared the food. She came and she told Mr. Thompson that the food is ready. Joe glanced from his wife's face to that of Maggie, and she understood him and answered. So maybe Joe must have looked at his wife, and then Maggie, just to confirm what about Maggie. So wife understood, and she said, "She can wait until we are done. Then I will bring her something to eat." There was an effort at indifference on the part of Mrs. Thompson, but her husband had seen her through the window and understood that the coldness was assumed. So maybe he was she told her husband that, "Oh, she can wait, let us have food, and then I'll get something for her as well." So, Mr. Thompson, he understood that maybe he was assuming that she'll be cold, she'll be hard-hearted, but it is not true. Joe waited after sitting down to the table for his wife to introduce the subject uppermost in both of their thoughts. So Joe, while they were eating dinner, Joe was waiting for the time when his wife will ask about Maggie or will actually talk about her topic. But she kept silent on that theme. So she was silent. She didn't actually, say anything for many minutes, and he maintained a like reserve. He also kept silent. At last, she said abruptly, means at last, finally, she said, "What are you going to do with that child?" Right? She was worried. "I thought you understood me, that she was to go to the poorhouse." So he says here, "I thought you understood that I'll be taking her to the poorhouse," replied Joe, as if surprised at her question. He acted as if he was surprised. Now, she knew that he'll be taking her to the poorhouse, but still she wanted to know, or she, brought that topic up just to know what Joe Thompson was actually thinking. And he said, "I thought you already, know that I'll be taking her to the poorhouse." So that's the conversation there. That's the end of the part here. I'll continue the rest in the next video. Right, just go through it, read it as much as possible. Please do not miss out the important lines. right? It is important. Okay, the rest will continue in the next video. Thank you.